September 9th. It is 5 o'clock now, so I'll call things to order. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda? Councillor Gullekson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll move the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Then our previous meeting from August 12th. The minutes are there for your review. Councillor Hibbs? I'm sorry, did we not vote on that?
No.
I'm trying to get back in the swing of things. My apologies, all those in favor of the agenda. And the next motion was by Councillor Hibbs for the adoption of the August 12th minutes.
Absolutely. I did not notice any errors unless anyone else had, so I would go ahead and move that we adopt them as presented.
Did anyone have any errors or omissions there that they'd like to bring up? All those in favor? Thank you. We're going to be doing mailbox previous to or prior to our hearing, or rather our presentation. What are we doing? Either or. I think in consideration of our guests, we would ask that the Rotary Daybreak Club, I'm assuming you're headed by Mr. Casey Quinn, if you want to come to the front here and have the floor, the presentation for us for an idea for Cranna Lake, I believe. And I'd just like to remind you to please use the microphone there for the benefit of those listening online and in the gallery as well.
Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council Administration. Susan McDonald. Tonight I'm wearing my Rotary hat. I have the pleasure of being the president of the Lacombe Daybreak Rotary Club for the coming year. So I'll do a little bit of an introduction. We want to tell you a little bit tonight about our club and also a very exciting project that we have that we'd like to present to you this evening. So we're one of two Rotary clubs in Lacombe. Lacombe Daybreak, we were founded in 2010. We're a very community-minded club and we have 13 active members. And we meet every Wednesday morning at 7 o'clock, early in the morning at the Rotary room at Lacombe LMC. And we like to focus all our energies, or the majority of our energies, on community projects and also projects that involved creating free play opportunities for youth and families in our community. And I just wanted to share with you some of the things that we participated in over our 9 years of existence in the community. We, as far as community service, we participate in, we're volunteers at the Meals on Wheels program in 2 to 4 weeks throughout the year. We do an annual food bank drive, which is coming up this Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We sponsor a family badminton night at one of the schools. We're involved in Chamber of Commerce Small Business Week. And we celebrate Lacombe Days. We're in charge of marshalling the parade for the celebration. We take part in the Community Rotary Carol Festival each year and also Lacombe Trade Show. Throughout the year we have been sponsoring a number of community projects and community groups. Some of the things that we've been involved with to date are, of course, the Connects bus, providing some funding towards one of the new buses a few years ago. Recently we've funded Lifeline units for Lacombe FCSS and the Lifeline program that they run. Lacombe Upper Elementary School, a garden tower, Big Brothers Big Sisters, their Mortgage of the Month campaign, Youth Unlimited, Special Olympics, Lacombe Composite High School Leadership Conference, Spire Special Needs Center. We do an annual grade 9 scholarship, Rotary's Student Leadership Camp, and Backyard Friends Community Supper. So these are some of the projects we're involved in. Of course, Rotary on an international level, we also support Polio Plus and the Shelter Box program. In 2019-2020, the Rotary International theme is Rotary Connects the World. So we'd like to take that down a little bit and say we have the opportunity here to, with Lacombe Daybreak, is to connect Lacombe with our Cranna Lake project. So now I'm going to turn it over to Casey Coyman, who is the lead on this project for our club.
I'm not sure how I follow that up here. So each year we set a budget for community projects, and this usually takes a lot of debate amongst our members as to what we want to do. And we've done small projects here, and usually our projects are tied in with Rotary Foundation funding, which we apply for each year. And one of the things that our members decided is they wanted to do something significant within the community of Lacombe, and something that brought people together. And one of the areas that came up, and we seem to keep coming back to this, is doing something with the Cranna Lake area at the east end, which, do I need a mic, or you guys can hear me? Mic is better? The east end of Cranna Lake became a focal point of what we want to do. So in front of you is some concept drawings that we put together, and these are concept drawings of what we would like to do there, and this is a big project for us. We're 13 members, and we're not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but we have lots of enthusiasm, and we put together the concept drawings because it's a lot easier coming to you and saying this is what we want to do. Now, we also met with your team here, I would say about a month and a half ago, and discussed the pros and cons of doing something at the east end of Cranna Lake. And they had their input, and of course they can't really move ahead as far as any helping us on this particular project without, you know, the go-ahead from yourselves as council. Now, this project is, like I said, a big reach for us. We do not have a budget at this point in time. We want to build a structure there that is a shelter that can be used for gatherings, it can be used for family gatherings, community gatherings, road races, for the skating facility, or the skating during the winter time. Call it maybe a changing your skates, putting your skates on, etc., etc. And in talking with the city people, the discussion came up, well, we really can't move ahead with anything there because it's going to create the need to redesign the traffic flow and so on in that particular area. Now, in these designs, it is incorporated in that there would be, you know, the redesign of the parking area, the entrance, the exit, etc. We are only interested in doing the fundraising and design of the actual shelter itself. So part of the thing we're coming to the city for is to get their contribution and their blessing on the parking and the street work and so on. Any questions so far? These two particular designs are, we had a young architect student put them together. They are not the final. They're concept designs of what it could look like. You know, we don't know how much either one of them will cost at this point in time. Now, our timelines are as follows. First of all, as we understand it, a project like this needs to get into the city's capital plan, okay, initially, and then we need to, with that, we would assume that there would be approval as far as the city is concerned. Then we would work with your people as far as getting the final design done. At the same time, we would continue our fundraising. We have started fundraising on a small scale at this point in time. There's going to be significant fundraising applications for grants. We would probably make our first application for a grant next May. Rotary Foundation grants start or are open as of May 1st of each year. You got 2 years to complete after that once you do have approval for funding. We would probably go to the other Rotary Club for help on this particular project, along with other service projects, along with applying for grants from the province to move ahead with it. We have not done anything at this point in time as far as construction, obviously. These designs haven't been taken any further than just concept, so we do not have anything that's construction ready at this point. It's going to be a big amount of fundraising for us. It'll take us a significant amount of time to raise the necessary funds to build the structure. So we'd like to get started on that. So from council, we're looking for, first of all, considering this project for your capital project. Also, too, to get your endorsement with your people as far as working with us to get the entire design for the area done. Okay. And then assistance with future grant applications. Any questions?
Thank you very much for that information. So I think we're all familiar with a lot of the work that Rotary does in our community and abroad, so we appreciate that. Had you planned on going through either of these conceptual designs at all at this point in time, or not necessarily ready to do that at this time?
Have we selected one?
Well, are you just going to go through and describe what it is that either of them are?
I don't know if we can or not. Norm, would you like to?
I could take a crack at it.
Okay.
Can I stand right in here?
Yeah, absolutely.
These things are a little bit low, but yeah, basically we had a young man who worked for me for a few years. He's now a third-year architectural student at the University of Calgary, and he did these drawings up for us. I was hoping that he could take them a little further, but he's actually spending his 4th year in Japan, and he just moved to Japan last year. So I talked to him this morning, but we can't take this any further. So what we have here is he's done a few different concepts for us in terms of what this building might look like. Some of them are more rectilinear, some of them are a little bit more organic. This one here, I don't know if you can all see this, but when we looked at these with our Rotary Club, we took a little bit of a special liking to this sort of shape. It flows with the shape of the lake and the shape of the clouds, and just seemed more welcoming. But again, we haven't finalized any of these things yet. But basically what we're talking about is putting a shelter, something like that in the area where, well, right now when you go skating in the winter, there's an old picnic table sitting on the ice. And what we'd like to do is put a shelter at that end of the lake. We're proposing a little bit of a boardwalk. I don't know, I suspect most of us have been down to Bower Ponds in Red Deer, and they have a little bit of a boardwalk along the lake where they do their paddle boats and things like that. And we thought, you know, events like what the Seventh-day Adventists do on Father's Day with their canoe event, that body of water is difficult to get a boat into. And a lot of people end up with boots full of water because there's a lot of mucky stuff around the edges. So we thought a hard edge there would be nice to launch a canoe if you wanted to do that. We also talked about there's going to have to be a little bit of redesign of some of the landscaping that's there now. Some of the trees will have to come out, maybe be relocated. We're showing the parking lot coming in off Cedar Drive as opposed to Woodland, or Cedar Crescent as opposed to Woodland Drive. And there is a significant elevation change, of course, from Cedar Drive down to the water. So there'd have to be some ramping and some stairs, but we thought some sort of a retaining wall in this area here could be a good opportunity for some artwork, some nice landscaping, some stonework. Yeah, just a nice gathering area. And again, as I think Casey mentioned, we talked about trying to include some of the other community service groups in this project, and of course the Bill Nielsen Trails Society. They do a lot of work on the trails and have some events from time to time. And we saw something like this as a starting point, a gathering point where they could come together. Perhaps it's a starting point, a finish point. But again, a little bit of shelter from the sun, shelter from the wind, a couple of washrooms, which are very much needed there. We're thinking about a fire pit or two, maybe a couple of picnic tables, just some things like that to make it a nice gathering area where people can come and enjoy the water's edge and enjoy a sunny day, either in the summer or the winter. Is there anything else that I should be saying? Yeah? Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much, I appreciate
Okay.
that
Okay.
from all of you. Councillor Gullekson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. One question I'd like to bring up is regarding the structure itself. Now, I think can the structure be built without the other things being done?
I don't know if we've really answered that question.
Yeah, that's a fairly large question.
Yeah.
Because even if this goes into the budget to change that area into a true park, the way we'd like to see it, that's going to be long-term. I would assume that you want to start this a lot quicker than what this would be. And because I think we're probably looking 4 or 5 years down the road before all that is done, even if it gets into our budget.
I just, Councillor Gullekson, in response to that, I think that's very important to kind of look at. Yes, our main focus is on the structure, but it's so important to think big and think for that whole area, because we wouldn't want to put a structure there and then plans would change and then you'd have to, take it down and so on and so forth. So if that has to be staged, I think that's something to consider as well.
Councillor Jacobson.
Yeah, I'm just curious, and if you mentioned this in your presentation, I didn't hear it, I apologize, but can you walk me through like the process of how you decided this project in this location? Were there any other locations that you considered, with any other types of projects, maybe of this scope, maybe not this particular, serving this particular need, but maybe of the same type of size?
I think from the club's perspective, we're thinking of where do people gather in our community naturally? And we always like to focus on things that provide opportunities like free play. So we talked about some different areas in town where some of those things are happening. And Cranna Lake is a busy place. In the winter, it's a busy place. In the summer, it's great for year-round for walking and so on and so forth. And that's only going to continue to grow. As far as people using the trails, we always say, well, there's no place to stop for a washroom break. Things like that. So we just get coming back to Cranna because it's a focal point and it's in the center of the city. So I think that's where we as a club agree that we would like to focus our efforts on.
Sure. So Cranna was ultimately the only place you did consider something like this?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
And I guess the thing is we just want to enhance and improve that area.
We, just to add a bit, when we started looking at projects, we very much blue-skied it in the sense that we had 20, 30 possible projects within Lacombe, not always building structures. Some of them were providing service, some of them were renting space for certain activities and so on. And of course, most of you probably are involved in a service club. Sometimes you're not very directed and so on as far as making decisions go. This will continue to come up as something we would like to do as a group. There's certainly a lot of projects out there, and I can't remember who from the city came and talked about building playground as a consideration too, which is endless, as you know, that you could contribute to. This one was debated seriously over and over again, to answer your question.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I might maybe reiterate also on the Rotary, but we had a lot of discussions with Sandy Stewart with Recreation Parks and Deb Juke, so there was a lot of consultation with the city as to what areas of the city, what needs you could serve as to the demographics, okay, the walking trails, the seniors, and so forth. So there was a lot more consultation done over a long period of time with the Recreational Parks, Sandy Stewart, Deb Juke. So think Rotary's theme has been youth and family, and to keep families active. So I think there's been a lot of planning and discussion that how to benefit the citizens and different demographics. So
We've certainly got an ambitious plan there. That's a major, I wasn't 100% sure what, when you first started out, but there's a lot going on there, and certainly a lot for us to consider as well as administration. So if we had some sort of a motion, if council was so inclined, perhaps to investigate further some of the options involved here. Once again, I admire your vision and whatnot, just that there's an awful lot going in here in addition to the structure itself. You said that you're interested in producing. I can see that there's a lot more facets to this as well. So in order to get a sense of the complete picture, I think it would be in our best interest to perhaps have a little more information. Councillor Ross?
thank you, Mayor Christian. I guess more for direction for the Rotary Club, and I'm not going to make that motion because I don't feel it's appropriate, but as direction for consultation with the city for engineering, for budgeting, I guess that's, I think, where the Rotary Club would really appreciate direction as to to take the next step with Recreation Parks, Director Duke, and engineering to get a cost to know what we're looking at as a group. So we need to move forward. So there's more collaboration with other Rotary Club and possibly other groups, Kinsmen and so forth. So some way of thinking that the motion needs to be directed towards engineering and fixed cost. So, but I don't think it's appropriate that I make that motion.
Councillor Jacobson?
Sure, I'll make the motion that to direct administration to work with the Daybreak Rotary Group to define party responsibilities as per their vision and to investigate potential costs and report back to council at a future date.
Very good, thank you. Any additional input or concerns? Councillor Gullekson?
I think Councillor Ross and I should recuse ourselves from that vote, right?
Yeah, it's up.
I think
If you could advise us on where we should be.
To be honest with you, I don't, just because you're members of that group, it's kind of your call, to be honest with you. I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't see it as an issue, but that's for you to,
CO Gully?
So my recommendation would be that you would recuse yourself. This has the potential to be a financial impact to a group that you are a member of, and that is defined as a potential conflict of interest within the Municipal Government Act.
Thank you.
Councillor Hibbs?
I guess in this situation, I'd actually disagree with that, shocking. But also just for future reference, if you're going to recuse yourself, you have to recuse yourself from the discussion as well. You can't actually have participated in the debate. Never mind, vote on it, so just for future. So when this does come back as a budget item, I think at that time, you would remove yourself in that situation. This is just a, we'd like more information situation here, so I don't see, personally, I don't see this as being an issue. But when decision time comes to proceed or not proceed with this project, that's what I would advise, is to remove yourself completely from that discussion, and then also the subsequent vote.
Councillor Gullekson?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I think tonight I didn't realize there would be a motion on the floor, so that's the reason I didn't do it prior to that.
Which is fair enough, and I think in this particular instance, given there's not there's always a financial portion, but seeing as how there's not a direct financial cost for what we're asking for, I don't see that it's an issue, but you've heard advice from our CAO and others, so the decision is yours to make. Anyone else? Do we need the motion read back, or are we good with it?
Councillor Jacobson's motion was to direct administration to work with Daybreak Rotary Group to define responsibilities as to their vision and investigate the cost and report back to council at a future date.
Very good, so everyone's clear? All those in favor? And opposed? We had 2 abstainers with appear. Very good. Well, thank you very much for your time and efforts. We really appreciate you coming and presenting to us, and look forward to seeing you again after you've had some further discussions with the administration.
Great,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Norm. Thanks, Maureen. Norm, do we have you over there?
I'll just meet you up there.
Norm, you gotta get behind this.
That's never happened. You can't get
Well, I just don't want any. I said it, that wasn't.
I think you told it because it's just asking for information. This is not a decision on the project.
I just don't want any perception.
So the next item's up, we glanced over our council mailbox, and the first letter we have is a letter to Minister Maydew on the Combative Sports Commission. Any concerns or comments with that item? That was a far bigger issue for some of the larger centers that host those types of events than was ours, but certainly I didn't really have I didn't see the need to not participate in their support. And then the county funding for the Connects bus replacement. Any concerns with it? And a letter from an individual over traffic speeds within city limits. Councillor Connick.
Just for my own clarification, are those are public roads then? Like I was just saying, when I saw this, doesn't the park have jurisdiction to set their speed limit within their own park, or is that considered public road and that's why they want the city to use it?
So, yes, a park, a trailer court would have the ability to set their own speed limits. Hearthstone
I guess it
Drive is
could be
being referred to as a trailer court, it is not a trailer.
That's kind of an issue, so.
Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I guess I was curious, is this going to be responded to like a citizen query? Is that in essence how, yeah.
There's a thank you from Royal Oak. Nice to see that making residents they're happy. And a letter from Berwyn University about orientation week in regards to Bolt. Waits there. And one from the Rikabetsu Friendship Society as well, outlining some of their experience in their recent visit to Hokkaido, in the North Island rather. Very good, thank you. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. This is actually to inform us of the visit that's coming up. It's not to talk about their past visits, so it's whether we will support the Japanese visitors when they come on that September weekend.
Thank you very much for bringing that up, and also to see if we could attract some homestay volunteers as well, right? Very good.
Sorry, thanks, Mayor Creasy. Just to update, they have all the houses, the homes that they need for this.
Wonderful. So that was the last of Councilor's mailbox, unless there's further comments. Councillor Connick.
I'll just move to accept this information.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Very good. And we are positioned well for a public hearing. It's 5:29 that I've got here. So we'll move into Planner Kirchner, come on up and join us, and move into our Operations and Planning Services Bylaw 400, or our land use bylaw, specifically Bylaw 400.26, rezoning for the new high school. And so I'm going to declare that this statutory public hearing for Bylaw 400.26 is now open, and that this hearing is held pursuant to sections 7, 8, 230, and 606 of the Municipal Government Act 2000 as amended, and requests the legislative coordinator to confirm the purpose of a public hearing, and that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised in the local newspaper, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are read into the record now.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. The purpose of this public hearing is to allow the general public to provide input to this proposed bylaw. Redesignate lots 2 and 3, block 8, plan 0326T18, which is otherwise known as 5101 Beardsley Avenue and 5102 College Avenue, from Universal Commercial District, UC, to Berman University District, BU, in order to facilitate development of an educational facility. For section 606 of the MGA advertising requirements, public hearing notice was advertised as shown in the Macomb Express on Thursday for 2 successive weeks, August 29th and September 5th. And Mayor Creasy and Council, no written submissions were received.
Thank you very much for that. Let's remind all persons getting oral presentations today are to clearly state their name, and presentations are to be kept brief and to the point. The order of the public hearing presentations will be as follows. First off, our development officer, and then there'll be those in favor of the proposal and those opposed, and then any person deemed to be affected will be heard lastly. So Planner Kirchner, if you care to walk us through this item, please.
Excellent, thank you for having me. So we do have a rezoning application before you. It would be to rezone 2 properties that are University Commercial District to Berman University District in order to facilitate the development of an educational facility. Essentially, these 2 properties, the Alberta Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is looking to relocate their current high school, Parkview Adventist Academy, to this site. It's currently located in a building that is located within the main Berman University campus, and they are essentially looking to find a newer and better location to build a new high school to meet their needs. We have had discussions with the individuals who are representing the conference and have discussed potential locations, with this one being beneficial due to its proximity to the Seventh-day Adventist Elementary School, which is located on the south side of College Avenue, as well as these being 2 existing lots located within proximity to the university itself. So there are a few images in there that give you a little bit of an idea of what the vacant properties look like now, essentially very lovely green fields. The existing surrounding zoning is a combination of residential and university-related properties. To the east is where you find the residential lots, zoning R1, R4, and R6, so mix between single-family and multi-family buildings. Land to the north and west is zoned the University Commercial District and has been developed for university-oriented commercial uses. And the remaining land located south and west forms the Berman University campus and is zoned the BU district. The campus zoning incorporates the elementary school, the current high school, church, and a variety of the university buildings itself. By sharing the zoning, it acknowledges that these different facilities share uses from housing to recreation facilities, and they benefit from the close proximity that they have on site. The outline plan calls for this area to be used for more of a commercial use, as well as the North Area Structure Plan, which indicates that this area should be a mixture between institutional and commercial uses, acknowledging the future potential for expansion of the Berman University campus. As well as noted last time, our schools districts that we have and pre-planning of school sites are limited to the Catholic School Board and Public School Board, as they are able to access municipal reserve lands in order to form their school campuses. With private educational facilities such as these, they operate more as essentially a commercial use and need to find alternative land locations for their facilities to be located. We have indicated that if rezoning were to be given, that as part of the preparation of a development permit, there would be a traffic impact assessment to determine how to best access the site and maintain traffic flow in the area, school pickup and drop-off zones, a servicing site to confirm the availability of water and sewer capacities, stormwater management plan, engineering drawings, site design, and so forth. I did receive 2 phone calls from 2 adjacent residents inquiring essentially as to what was being planned for the site. The first individual indicated he had no real concerns because the existing high school is already located in the vicinity, and by moving it, they don't anticipate a large amount of traffic increase, just a bit of a shift in how the area is being used. The second individual also did not have any concerns, but would appreciate at the time of development permit, despite the fact that it is a permitted use, they would like for the conference to maybe consult with them just to discuss things such as where the access point for the school would be located, off of which road, and how things would be oriented on the property, because those residences look directly onto that field now and that nicely manicured walking area at the front. So they're just curious and would appreciate the chance to have a little bit of dialogue when we get to the planning stage to, make sure that everyone works together and that the site works for everyone in the area. But other than that, there were no concerns raised or any additional phone calls or visits from members of the public. And we do recommend that at the closing of the public hearing that council proceed with second and third reading for this rezoning.
So before you did I see in here somewhere that this also fall in line with our area structure plan and our municipal development plan as well?
Yes, so in general, our area structure plan, the outline plan, call for institutional or commercial uses, and our MDP does talk about supporting educational facilities for residents and provide those opportunities for diverse educational experiences. So this aligns with the general social policies we have for the community to ensure it grows in a healthy and sustainable way.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Planner Kirchner before we move in? Any clarification? No? Very good. So at this time, I'll ask anyone wishing to speak in favor of Bylaw 400.26 at this time. Please come forward now. I see a little hesitation here. Please go on up to the microphone. I'll have you use the microphone there, and have you push the gray button in the bottom right-hand corner. Your red light should come on.
I can't tell the difference between red and green sometimes, however.
Thank you very much. My name is Lou Werner. I'm representing the Alberta Conference.
Push it again, just push it once.
Try again? Okay, it'll stay. Thank you. My name is Lou Werner. I'm representing the Alberta Conference of the Seventh Adventist Church, whose head office for Alberta here is in the community, so we appreciate very much the relationship we've had with the City of Lacombe in the past, and also the process that's been used to further what used to be College Heights. College Heights very much began many, many years ago with an educational focus, and of course has now developed into Birmingham University, and as part of the process of growing the university and renewing the high school we're looking at was mentioned for the location of the school. And it seemed best to utilize the location we're being put forward. We are very much concerned also that we work closely with the community to make sure it's a safe location for traffic, a safe location for the pickup and delivery of children to the school, and also to preserve, the decorum of that specific neighborhood. We believe we can add value to the neighborhood in respect of more social opportunities with the school and the facilities of the school. We're quite open to having discussions with the community to let them know about timelines, the process, and also the more specific planning. I appreciate the mention that was made from one of the neighbors adjacent, that if we can consult and be open to certain points of discussion, that would be good, and I think that's good advice. And so today we're requesting very much that we could proceed with the rezoning. We would then proceed with the more detailed planning and site planning, and very much then want to fit in with the construction of a good quality facility.
Is that everything?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner, appreciate that. Is there anyone else who chooses to speak in favor? It appears to be no one else that's wishing to speak in favor, so I will ask, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this proposed bylaw? A mad rush up to the microphone for those opposed. And finally, any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. That was your chance. Come on up. And seeing none, I will suggest that it is now 5:40. And I will declare the public hearing for bylaw 400.26 closed. Gowdy, go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to correct some advice that I gave Councillor Gullekson and Councillor Ross earlier on. While the planner Kirchner was presenting, I did a little more research. Found an interpretive document from Municipal Affairs about pecuniary interest. So I just wanted to go through that quickly here. Section 172 of the MGA sets out the procedure you're to follow if you have a pecuniary interest. Endorsing Councillor Hibbs' statements earlier, a declaration of pecuniary interest should come at the front end of the meeting and recuse yourself from the entire discussion, including the vote. However, several exceptions are listed in section 170 of the MGA, so that there's not an overly restrictive interpretation of the provisions, which would have been my interpretation. My interpretation was based on the application of municipal resources to help a service club. However, there's a specific exemption within the MGA in section 170, subsection 3, that says a councillor does not have a pecuniary interest only because the councillor or a member of the councillor's family may have by being a member or director of a non-profit organization as defined in section 241F, or a service club, which of course the Rotary Club is a service club. So my apologies for that advice earlier on. I think that it would be best to actually rehold that vote and allow the two councillors who recuse themselves to participate in that vote. Would be my recommendation, and my apologies for my earlier incorrection.
There's been I can't think of another time offhand, but I'm sure you've been wrong before, it's all of us. So it's nice to see that we got one right, Councillor Hibbs. So given that there was 2 abstaining votes, we are going to re-vote in order to do it cleanly and above board. What's the process that we need to follow through? I'll ask our legislative coordinator what his recommendation is.
You should just be able to hold it again, because right now it's recorded incorrectly, you can't have 2
Yeah.
abstentions, so.
A couple meetings back, we had a similar situation whereby we voted in the opposite rather than the positive, and we simply conducted the vote again so that there was further clarity with clear wording in the motion and clear what the administration's direction was. So I just recommend that I can reread the motion again and we can have a second vote for additional clarity.
That's a route that we'll go then, and although it would be interesting for anybody coming in at this point in time, I guess if they're watching online, just given that there was some, I guess, less than perfect advice given to 2 councillors in regards to this vote. I think that we're all in favor with reholding that vote, and we will do so.
So Councillor Jacobson made a motion earlier to direct administration to work with Daybreak Rotary Group to define responsibilities as to their vision and investigate the cost and report back to council at a future date.
Thank you very much for that. Any additional comments before we vote? All those in favor? None opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for clarifying that, CEO Gowdy. And if we move into section number 7, rather, the bylaws, operations and land services, bylaw 400. Planner Kirchner, do you care to join us once again? And currently up for consideration for second reading.
Yes, so staff is recommending that council proceed with second reading and then final reading of this bylaw to rezone these 2 properties to Berman University District.
Councillor Jacobson?
Sure, I move that council give second reading to bylaw 400.26 as presented.
Thank you. Any additional input? Everybody will be voting this time? Okay. No other concerns, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And do we have any reason to, in favor of, or to not recommend the third reading this evening? Councillor Connick?
I also move that we give 3rd reading to bylaw 400.26.
Very good. Any other concerns? All those in favor? Unanimous as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Director Pichet. Next up, we have bylaw 473 up for second reading regarding our electrical distribution services.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Before council tonight is second and third reading of bylaw 473, the electrical distribution service bylaw. The first reading had occurred on August the 12th council meeting, and the purpose of this bylaw is to prohibit all other persons other than Fortis from providing electrical distribution services within the legal boundaries of the City of Lacombe. Currently, there is a franchise agreement in place between the City of Lacombe and Fortis, Alberta that provides them with exclusive rights to the electrical distribution service. However, prior to an application that was filed by Fortis to the Alberta Utilities Commission, the transfer of services did not have to come at a specific time timeframe to it. And now that the AUC has reviewed and approved Fortis's application, a municipal bylaw is required to have the electrical distribution service transferred immediately after a land transfer or annexation. This process of passing this bylaw is basically a housekeeping issue, as there are currently no transfers of land to the city's boundaries in progress. As mentioned earlier, administration is seeking second and third reading of this bylaw this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I don't have any additional questions from last time. I think it was fairly straightforward, so I would then go ahead and move that council approve second reading for bylaw 473, electrical distribution service bylaw.
Thank you. Is there any, Councillor Connick?
Just for my own, I mean, I know the answer, but I think when I first read it, this thought popped into my head, and then I thought about it some more, and I know the answer, but I think just for people at home, it's just for the distribution. Consumers at home can still pick whatever power provider they want.
Absolutely. It is just that franchise agreement within the city. Yeah.
Appreciate that reminder, because that could be confusing for some. Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. It's just for information, I guess. If the city in any way, shape, or form puts power back into the grid, does that change this in any way? Like, for example, if it's, as we discussed, I guess more private natural gas generation, or if we go to sustainable energy and there's power created through solid waste or recycling in the future, how would that come into play affecting us?
So if you were generating electricity, similarly, you'd be paying Fortis a distribution fee for use of their wires, unless you were using that generated electricity on site. So if you were, say, you used an example of the lagoons there, or so if you were to use the electricity, say, within the regional lift station, which is on site, then you build your own infrastructure, and Fortis wouldn't be involved. But if you are feeding back into the grid, you must pay the wire charges for the use of their wires, basically.
Anyone else? All good then? All those in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous as well, thank you. With Councillor Hughes?
If there's no concern, I would go ahead and move third reading of the same bylaw, 473, electrical distribution service bylaw.
Thank you. Seeing no comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Third reading are through. Thank you. Next up, Senior Manager DeBresser. If you'd like to join us under Financial Services Bylaw 474, repeal taxes on mobile home units bylaw. And it's up for our third reading.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So before you do have Bylaw 474, which is the repeal of the mobile home units bylaw. Tonight we're recommending third reading. On August 12th meeting, Council did give first and second reading. As you may be aware, that this bylaw directs the property tax clerk to collect estimated current property taxes by the 15th of the taxation year on mobile homes in mobile home parks. Alternatively, if they don't prepay the taxes by the 15th, they can, or they're forced to go into pre-authorised monthly payment. I won't go through the memo again, as you've already given it 2 readings, but we are looking for third reading tonight. I'll open up for any questions.
Thank you. So just refresh my memory as to why this was changed specifically for this ownership group.
Sorry?
Well, how did this come about to be different than any other property originally? What was the reasoning for it? Do you know?
Back in '95, before my time, the council at that day assess the risk in people actually moving trailers before property taxes are levied and paid for that year. Currently, we see that risk as very minimal. Historically, we've collected all the property taxes in the year that they've been levied or followed up on the homeowners through mortgage companies by that. We don't see it as a risk, so repealing this bylaw would bring people in mobile home units back into line with the other property tax owners, taxpayers within the city. So it was introduced in 95 and then revised in 96. So I'm not sure of the intent back then, but it was the risk related to the ability to move mobile homes. If that answers your question.
It does, thank you. Councillor Lucia?
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I will move that council give third reading to bylaw 474.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, I will call a question. All those in favor? Unanimous as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Director Juke, under new business, we have community services for a scope and budget amendment for the 2019 Regional Airport Capital Project. Would you care to walk us through that, please?
Sure, thank you, Mayor Creasy. So this report is presented to request an additional $25,300 into the budget for the 2019 Airport Capital Project entitled Move West Fence and Finish East Taxiway. A council motion is actually required on this because of the purchasing policy section 9 authorities subsection C. Because capital projects are individually approved, funding may not be changed or projects substantially altered without the prior approval of council. So this project actually has both amendments needed here, both scope and budget. So it was found with an inspection this year that the road actually requires a rebuild rather than a repaving as originally scoped. The paving portion of the capital project, there are two parts to the project. We're talking about just the one part. The paving portion of this project was budgeted at $15,600 when the rebuild cost is estimated at $40,900. So that requires a net budget increase of $25,300. However, there is a revenue increase as well associated with this change from the County of Lacombe and the Lacombe Flying Club, both of whom are in the airport agreement pay 25% of the capital costs, sorry, of a project. So, sorry, there's a table on page 3 that I'll just refer to here that captures the essential differences in the financial picture of this project. There is a map as well, just to orient you to the particulars of this. Ross, could you scroll to the map, please, at the end? I want to point out why it's called Finish the East Taxiway. The first part of the taxiway, which is marked there, you can kind of see is a different color. That was actually repaved in prior years, I believe last year or the year before. This is the north section, about 80 meters. It's marked there on the map. So again, the budget was estimated last year. Inspection this year by city staff indicated that there is virtually no base under this portion of the taxiway, and to repave it would not result in any substantial life for the amenity. So at this point, I'll take any questions that you may have about that.
Thanks, Director Juke. Councillor Connor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So, given that we're into September already, why the panic to get it done this year? Like, why can't we do it next year?
So it certainly is possible to do it next year. Prior to bringing this matter to council, I actually sought the approval of the Flying Club for the additional costs associated with this project, and the county as well. The county has approved the RC1 application, which is the capital grant application for this facility. They've approved the higher amount. Of course, if we cancel the project or put it on hold till next year. That simply will just delay the issuing of that grant. They have approved the additional funds, and we were waiting for the Flying Club to agree to the additional costs. And with summer, it was just not the case that they could have a meeting until now.
I mean, I'm not opposed necessarily, I just think you're kind of running out of time in this season. I mean, you can just put it for next year and
That was, appreciate bringing that, certainly this is an option, as a recommendation if someone so choose, but Councillor Extra?
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I guess I was looking for an answer as to where this $29,000 would come from. Was that answer given and I just missed it?
That is not addressed in this report, so I'll have to refer that to CAO Gowdy.
It'll come out of your roads reserve as a transportation project.
Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So has this already been put out to RFP for quotes for the final cost?
No, it has not.
This is a relatively small project, and I believe it was based off other work that was similar in scope that City Forces came up with the pricing. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah, our engineering person
Oh, okay, sorry.
came up with that number, yeah.
Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I guess just for like absolute clarification, the motion talks about like the increase budgets, you know, to allow for a scope that makes the project now 25 or whatever it was there. But the actual dollar value that will be going above what's already budgeted is closer to like 12-ish, right? Like we're not actually going to be spending another 25,000, or because that's not how it looks like on the chart thing here.
Yeah. So to clarify, that's a little bit confusing because there is a revenue increase as well. So that is the cost recovery amounts paid by the county and the Flying Club, which we will receive after the project completes. So staff need an authority to purchase the whole project, and then we'll cost recover an additional $12,650 in addition to what was previously estimated for revenue on this project, cost recovery.
So on page 3 of your report, the total project costs currently were $33,600, and then the revised budget is $58,900, and the difference between those two is $25,300.
Yes, but that's not taking into consideration revenue that then comes in from other sources. Is that correct? What I'm saying is, in the end, ideally, we're paying much less coming out of our end of things. The city is what I'm getting at. So while it sounds like that's a huge change in the grand scheme of things with our partners, it actually isn't that bad is all I'm getting at. Just so I fully understood that. So that's all, thank you.
Councillor Jacobson.
Sure, and maybe further clarification to Councillor Hibbs' point. So the initial net project cost of the city of $16,800, that was already budgeted for previously and approved, is that correct?
That's correct, $15,600.
Okay. So we're really only looking at like a net increase of $13,000 to do this.
That is correct.
I'd suggest that's a pretty reasonable expenditure to get this done now, myself. Where's the motion? Sure. I'm happy to make the motion that council approves an amended scope for the 2019 Regional Airport Capital Project to rebuild the East Taxiway and a budget increase of $25,300 to enable the project to complete in 2019.
Always like to add with these ones, weather depending, but certainly it makes it a possibility. If not, then I would assume that would carry it forward to the 2020 capital budget for them. Any additional comments? Call the question, all those in favor? Any opposed? That was unanimous. Good. And the next item up, under council and legislative, we've got some board and committee appointments for review. C.A. Gowdy, care to take us through those?
For council this evening are two recommendations for new appointments to boards. The first is with the term ending August 31st, 2020, for the Lacombe District Recreation, Parks and Culture Board, and that's Miss Amira Giesbrecht. The second is a council appointment of Robin Jones to the Affordable Housing Strategy Steering Committee for a term ending September 10th, 2021. Both of the resumes have been reviewed and are recommended for approval. They're included in the camera package for your review as well.
Thank you. Councillor Rookstrom.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I'll move that council appoints Amira Giesbrecht as a student representative for a term ending August 31st, 2020 to the Lacombe District Recreation, Parks and Culture Board.
Thank you. Certainly if anyone would prefer to discuss any related items in camera, that's not a problem, we can. Unless I see some lights going on, I will call the question though. We're all good? All those in favor of the appointments? Thank you. And next up is our oh, I'm sorry, that was just for the one. I'm sorry, those are both appointments. Very good. Somebody else here to make the next one? Councillor Gullekson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I also move that council appoints Robin Jones to the Affordable Housing Strategy Steering Committee for a term ending September 10th, 2021.
Thank you. All those in favor? None opposed? Thank you very much. C.A. Gowdy, next item up, Intermunicipal Collaboration Framework Protocol. If you care to walk us through that item, please.
Sure, so what we've got is the discussion protocols proposed by Lacombe County for development of the Intermunicipal Collaboration Framework, which is of course required to be adopted by the municipality, by municipalities with adjacent borders by April of 2020. So we've had our first meeting with the ICF committee just a few weeks back, and we've been compiling our existing agreements and arrangements. We'll be sending them over shortly and meeting with them in the next couple of weeks. The main components of the discussion protocol that would be of interest to council, the two members of your intermunicipal development plan committee would be the two members representing you on the intermunicipal collaboration framework discussion. Those would be Mayor Creasy, Councillor Hibbs. In addition, we would have the CAO and our Corporate Services Director, as well as any staff that we deem necessary to support those discussions. Once we've come to an agreement on specific components of the ICF, so whether that be recreation agreements or emergency services agreements, at the ICF committee, they'll be coming back to council for ratification by the whole, with the goal, of course, of reaching that April 2020 deadline for the ICF adoption. If there's any questions, I can take them from there.
Thank you. My expectation is some of you, when you're reading through this, you thought this is perhaps a little more formal than what you may have expected, and why we have to have a meeting to come up with these, but I think it's important that we set up the ground rules of how we, or what our expectations are and what our outcomes are and how we're going to go about getting there prior to actually getting down to the actual substance of those meetings. So, as required through that protocol, one of the important items is bringing portions and sections as we move through it forward for your comment and approval. So that's where we're at right now. Councillor Cranna?
Thank you. Maybe this is not the right question, or maybe I'm confused, but how is this different than the IDP? Like I thought thought we were ahead of the game when we had an IDP in place and didn't have to do this. But this must be different.
So it is different. An IDP is required and has been required by the province for some time for municipalities of our size, so us in the Polk County. It's a plan that sets out mutual development constraints, and so says, here's what the future of our communities look like on those peripheral edges in terms of land use, whereas the ICF looks beyond land use and says, what sort of joint services are you providing, or can you provide to residents within both communities? So it could be utility services, it could be social services, it could be shared transportation, as you and I were at this afternoon, emergency services. So rather than just being constrained to land use, it's about the entire suite of services that the municipalities offer.
Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you. I think it's also worth pointing out that we do actually have a lot. I brought my binder just so you can just visually see that that's all paperwork of sort of agreements that we've had historically already going forward. So we've obviously had a really good relationship with the county, and so this is just sort of more formalizing that, I think, is maybe a good way to say it, and then including any things that maybe already don't have an agreement, but I think it's just a way of doing that. So that does help, though, that we have so many of those things already, so it's a kind of a matter of kind of going through those and sort of ratifying them, I guess. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting process, but should be quite positive, I think.
Thank you, and a great reminder, and also I think it's important to note some of those agreements that are in place are getting a little aged. I think some of them are back from 1957 or 6 or something, so after half a century or so, it's probably due for a revisit. And I think this just consolidates all of those agreements so everybody's on board. There was, I guess, a few instances where perhaps the county had agreements that were a little varied from what we had and vice versa, so it's nice just to be able to get everything back on track and have everybody working off the same playbook. So any additional comments or questions about these protocols? We'd certainly like a motion. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I would go ahead then and move that council approves the proposed intermunicipal collaboration framework ICF discussion protocol.
Very good. Anything further? All those in favor? None opposed? Thank you. So that brings us down to item number 10 for reports. And Councillor Gullekson, you care to start?
Certainly. On August 26th, thank you, Mayor Creasy. On August 26th, I attended the grand opening of the emergency room at the Lacombe Hospital. This renovation was well overdue, and the addition of the new facility will be great service to our community. It's a lot safer. It provides more space, and I think for staff and for patients, and I think it's a great addition to our hospital. And then on September 4th, had an MPC meeting. We had 2 items on our agenda: home-based business and home demolition. Both of these were approved.
Thank you. Certainly, as always, if anybody has any questions about the councillor's report, just put on your light and we'll take them up at the time. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So on, was it last weekend before, my apologies, represented City Council for the opening ceremonies of the Alberta Square Dance Convention. I was the baby in the crowd. And Culture and Tourism. Been meeting of reviewing our 2020 budget for approval, and I strongly encourage our businesses to be members of our chamber and our Culture and Tourism, because they do a lot of work to advocate for our business, even during events such as even the Cranna Convention, those organizations will receive packages as to, businesses, restaurants and so forth. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes to promote our local business. So, and we're changing more towards emphasizing the word on partnership and collaboration. So, and also we had a wind up for the companies, and look forward to fine-tuning events and feedback and moving forward. So had that last night as well. So that's my part.
Thank you. Councillor Hoekstra?
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. My report is in front of you. As I mentioned earlier about the Rikabetsu Friendship Society, we have visitors coming September 21st to 24th. I did send out emails to some of you to be involved, and I appreciate for the support that you expressed. I would really appreciate that someone would be there to greet them on the 21st. Did you? Yeah? Okay. Thank you. I'm sort of unavailable. And then the Lacombe Foundation has had a few meetings and to discuss some issues we had, but we also received the printed copies of the feasibility study. I've given those printed copies to Ross if someone wanted to read them, and that's the culmination of all our meetings that we had earlier this year, and hopefully we'll be able to be shovel ready to get a grant when we want to build.
Thank you, Councillor. I actually do have some other commitments on that day, but certainly there will be someone there to greet them, as there always has been in the past for sure. And once we get the timing a little closer, certainly if I'm able to make it, I would love to. If it's not possible though, then the deputy. And I guess on that same note, over this last 10 days or so that I was away, there was several events that were on, and I want to thank all of you for pitching in. Councillors Connick and Jacobson and Ross and Gullekson, I believe all had events, and a great team effort, so thank you very much for that. Report from Councillor Jacobson, please.
Sure, my report is verbal tonight. So on September 3rd, as the mayor announced, I filled in for him at Burman University for the opening of their new business support center, for lack of a better term. And anecdotally, I didn't get the speaking notes that Devin had sent to me by email, and the CAO called me 5 minutes before and said, "You realize, you're filling for the noise." I said, "Yeah, you're talking?" I'm like, "Well, I do now." It went pretty good, I think, all things considered. So that was good. On September 5th, we had the the Heritage Resource Committee meeting. And really the big takeaway from that is that we're absolutely committed with that group to not exceed any of our expenditures moving forward. So you'll see the same ask this year, and they're doing some pretty creative things to use their budget very appropriately. So I was encouraged to see that. And they're always worried that if they don't ask for more, that they're going to get their current amount slashed. And I said, I don't think you're going to see that kind of sentiment from this council. I think they'll appreciate that you're sticking to that. So that's good. And then today I was with Councillor Connick on the Bolt Committee. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councillor Hibbs?
Sure, I do have a report, but I have a quick question actually. So with Bolt, they were informed then that there is a notice of motion on tonight's agenda?
Yes, they were.
Okay, thank you. So with regards to my report, it is included. I don't really have anything extra for comments on it. I do want to make a comment, however, on the Rikabetsu. I actually am hosting, so I will actually be there at the event. So I'm not sure who is the deputy mayor currently right now, but I would definitely be more than willing to act on the city's behalf, seeing as how I'm already there, but I'll leave that up to you guys to sort out. And yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, but otherwise that's my report.
Thank you. Some of those dates went back for a bit. It must have been a while since you've had a report. That was a fairly lengthy one. It was actually, I kind of enjoyed reading it, but it's amazing how many events that we go to over time. So, Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Chrissy. Before I delve into my report, who is the deputy mayor? Just Just one clarification. Ross, could you,
Sorry?
who's the deputy mayor?
At what point, at what time?
Starting today.
Or right now? I'd have to check my list. It's online on the webpage on the bottom right corner.
It could be me, but just me.
I'll send you out an invite for recognition and you guys can confirm.
I just want to confirm because the mayor alluded to, I covered for him. In fact, I missed my appointment. But Councillor Gullekson was there, thank goodness. So, but we just wanted to make sure who, in fact, is deputy mayor. And if you want to do that, you're going to be there. By all means, works for me. My report, I just did one addition. July 12th, I did go to the farmers market public consultation. I was there with Councillor Hoekstra and Gullekson. I put that in my report. I did also want to mention I was also at the grand opening of the Lacombe Hospital. I put it in my report, but just a shout out to the Lacombe Health Trust for their work for the decade preceding this and the amount of money they raised. It's outstanding. It's that type of thing that always blows me away in this community when you have these groups that through a lot of hard work come up with these funds, and it benefits us all, right? I'm always grateful we have a fully functioning hospital in this community, so it's wonderful. So that's a wonderful addition as well.
Thank you. So briefly, I just brought up the rotation list here for those of you who are wondering. July and August was in fact Councillor Jacobson, and September and October is Councillor Connick. So there'll be no shucking your duties now. Seattle County has a significant events report as well.
So nothing too outrageous there. Confirmation of some funding for interim MSI funding. Of course, we're waiting the remaining to hear about the outstanding 11%, which we're hoping to hear further details of the provincial budget, of course. We are working on budget here ourselves at the city. I'm looking forward to budgeting for 2020 and sitting down with council to go through that. I did have, at the time of writing this report, we were investigating some issues with some city infrastructure not showing up on Alberta One calls we would have expected, but that has been remedied at this point. And some pump issues on the regional sewer that have been remedied at some cost. That's about all I have for my August significant events report.
I think the only one that I missed was myself, and I was on vacation and chose not to put one in this time, but I'll certainly catch up with the events that were previous to leaving and on the next one. And so we've got those reports before us, written in some verbal. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that we accept the reports as information.
Very well, thank you. All those in favor? Wonderful. And item number 11, notices of motion. We have a motion from Councillor Gullekson. Would you care to read that item for us, please?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. And this item will come forward on September 23rd meeting, is that correct?
Yes.
And my notice of motion is that council direct administration to immediately initiate the process for discontinuing the Bolt transit service in the city of Lacombe.
Thank you for that. So notice of motion for our next meeting. And we do have some in-camera items coming up, but before that we'll take a break and give the press an opportunity to ask questions. Thanks for attending. So